Now you're really getting.
Now you're really going back.
Speaking of nostalgia,
I know the music, not today.
who's picking the music today?
I just have it on classic rock.
I love it.
That's good.
Makes me happy.
What was the band you liked most?
I like everything.
You like everything?
Are we walking, not last
Oh,
week?
we don't. It won't be that. You'll never see it again.
Gotta figure out,
Totally.
starting with the next point, just gonna see what we find.
Right.
Everything on the
Yeah,
board.
it was there, and I was like, I
Oh, yeah, we were talking exactly, don't have a bunch of restrictions, because that's what we're going. So then we have to put this point.
Did y'all have
No. So I like worked so encouraged for like hours. Their house. They're like, we can't do anything.
It's just more, yeah,
Marissa, do you use
So always gotta protect
Yeah.
the song for Saturday.
I don't want
So I'm like, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I must have asked.
this doesn't go away until I.
Yeah.
Oh, you have? I see, we're not. It's a lot of energy and effort. Then it's like, is it worth it? I wish I had. That's it, right? Like, do I want to spend all my time? Let's see what the number is lower. Yeah. I think that's the other issue. Is the numbers. One. Let's see. Oh my God. I have to see. I need a picture of these property.
We're gonna stay at the conference.
This guy was just bizarre.
Oh my God.
This guy was like so bizarre.
Yeah.
It was just you walk in, it's got all this. Yeah. Cabinets. Wash tubs. In the kitchen. Which is fine. One side of the counters are not. This big, the other side. There's oh my God, washer dryer. The bedrooms. It's just bizarre. So it needs a lot. Yeah, you probably need to cut but it does have walls on top of it. His name is Roger. I don't know.
That the problem is that what needs to get done, it's a problem, it's not because of it.
275.
Big crowd here today.
Here's the rest if you want to take a picture. Oh, there's one. Yeah. Huh? I know.
I think it's like Jenna's over, it's realistic. I woke up with a flat tire this morning, thankfully I had a spare, we had a third car, so I dropped my daughter to school, but like, it's just so annoying.
It's annoying. It throws off your day.
But at the same time, it's like, compared to all the other problems.
I gave my dog her food in a water bowl. With the
How's it
water.
going?
With the water in it?
With the water in it.
How's that?
Oh, her food bowl with water in it?
I put her food, the right to her.
She's like, no, I want it.
Oh, okay. My daughter said that there was a therapy yesterday and
I'm gonna swing it.
Is it just something that?
Repairs. No, apparently, according to him, it's too much to negotiate.
Drinking beer and eating, I guess.
Well, why wouldn't you?
So, yeah, so I had it, so I reached out,
So you were in the July.
I reached out.
And that's why you went.
I should wonder. I go on by, let's go get started. Can we give a happy birthday to Angela? Let's give her a hand. Yay, Angela! 29.
Sure. I have a 26-year-old, but I'll go for that.
Sorry, hold on, take this, okay? All right, somebody give me some good news. What's some good news right now?
It's 70 degrees.
Yeah, the weather.
So here.
Like, that's the happy day. Sunny,
2 weeks ago, there
warm.
was snow on the ground.
Yeah, but the dog is not so right?
I want my dog at 5:30 in the morning. He has a little slow to get on when it's below 32.
No sweater today.
No sweater, we had no sweater on.
Sweater free walk.
Yeah, I had my dog. Yes, ma'am, Kim.
Contracts have started to pick up in the last week.
Say that one more time, Kim.
Contracts have started to pick up in the last
Kim,
week.
how do you know that?
Because, we process contracts for agents, we need their contract to close. So we know what's going on.
We're going to get a chance to talk about that in just a few minutes, okay? Any other good news we need to talk about?
Yes,
All right, tell us.
so I disclosed a agent-to-agent referral. Guys, you're not establishing relationships with the other 118,000 KW agents. You're just missing out. It's so easy, just think about our culture, I hate turning my back. Think about our culture and think about how great we are to each other. Just pick up the phone, go to White Pages, find an agent in a city that you know people move from to, right? And just find an agent who's productive and just call them and make relationships. When you get that referral call, it's just you. You're not competing with anybody. Okay?
All right,
That's my little tip.
while you're up and you have our attention, tell them about yesterday.
Yeah, how'd it
Because that's
go?
good news.
How'd it go?
It went very well. I was kinda, sorta, maybe pleased, Angela. As I text with you my phone. Okay, so here are results, right, and, Jules, what I wanna say. So we had 11 agents to show up, right? I don't have everybody's numbers yet. This is what I have. Dials and texts, 526 made between the 11 of us. 90 contacts, 10 leads, 11 appointments. So the leads are different. This is what we add to our pipeline. And we put ourselves in a way of, drumroll please. Potential GCI, 102,550.
Nice.
Right?
Good job.
And that's with 11 agents showing up. I'm just gonna go ahead and say this.
So what?
Why this room is not full, where we have a power day with free leads, free FISBA leads and free expired leads and us role playing before we start, I don't know. But that's for him to figure out, right? Cause I am not the team leader, I'm just a lowly PC
Oh,
coach,
stop.
right? Right, we are, that's what we are.
So Angela, is your, so my thought is, Angela, honey, I can stay home and do my lead generation, I don't need you to come into the office. Why is that not a good thought process to have?
The role-playing aspect,
Like, tell me more about that.
as Arthur Ray mentioned, before we get started, we role-play different scenarios. We're calling the spires, we're calling the cell by owners, we're calling our spheres. So talking through different conversations and possible objections that may come through to give you the confidence to know what to say when you get on the phone. And then additionally, being able to hear other people in their conversations, either rooting them on because one of our newbies got their first appointment, she's going on a listening appointment on Saturday, we're meeting this afternoon so that she can practice her presentation. Listening to her and giving her that encouragement and say, you got it. Or to be able to say, ooh, that's a good thing to say, oh, I don't wanna say that. To be able to move forward and again, gaining confidence and making the calls.
It was a good day yesterday, and I got a referral first yesterday and one appointment, so it was good, so I think we'll do that, it was absolutely great. Anyway, got good day yesterday, and I'm gonna remind y'all again that on the first, at least by the first Tuesday of March, this room is gonna be totally redone. So what's gonna happen is that you'll come in from the back, and you have the floor, and the chairs will be this way. Am I doing this right, Kimberly? And be double screens up here, you'll be able to see it, there'll be a great sound system. There's one mic right now, people that are on Zoom, we're gonna have 7 mics, I think is what it is. And there'll be mics everywhere, you'll be able to hear, and there's gonna be a fancy camera up there that when you're walking around, it will follow you. And so guys, we're gonna have a new system. We talked to a good friend of mine named Michael Mayer, he's gonna come hopefully that first Tuesday in March and do something with us. So guys, just get ready, cause it's getting ready to be transformed. New furniture, new everything else, we're excited about that. We needed it. This screen's so old, even I don't like it. Our partners, come on up. Thomas and Brown.
All right, good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
I'm Emily Smith from Thomas and Brown, and this is
I'm Ashley Hutchinson.
yes, and we are usually in Cumberland or Buckhead, but we are also here quite a bit, so you probably will see us somewhere along the way in your closing journey. Carrie Green wanted me to remind you all that she resent the email if you are going to family reunion. Who's going? Who's going to family reunion? Woo woo! Hunter's going. Anybody else? No? Okay. Hunter and KTOB will be there, right? If you want to come and eat some food and have drinks with Carrie Green, scan the QR code and join. They'll be very glad to have you. And then there is the making of a closing with Cheryl, world's best instructor, as you all probably know. And you can also scan that as well. And I think in that class, she gives you the blow by blow of what you need to know contract to close. So I'm here, I wanna share with you briefly horror stories from the deep beyond, because I realized what we are supposed to be doing downstairs for y'all is helping y'all out, so that you guys look awesome at closing, right? So that life is good all the way through, but that when you get to the closing, everything from that day forward is closed, transacted, beautiful. This was not the case in this story. Nobody in this room, nobody in this building is involved in this story. This closing happened in one of our far beyond offices. No Keller Williams agent was harmed. What happened was we got a purchase and sale contract came over, and the legal description, y'all. You all know legal description. That's number one. If you've got a seller, what are we selling? That is the question, right? What exactly are we selling? And that is a big mystery. It's shocking sometimes. If you are doing business in East Cobb or Roswell or, where there's a platted subdivision, it's really simple. Lot 22, Hampton Bluff subdivision. You know that's 6005 Hampton Bluff, right? Everybody knows that. but you get some property, you get some acreage, and it becomes a big question mark. So this seller was selling, she thought, 1.69 acres. In her legal description, so she put in the address, and then in the legal description, it literally just said a deed book and page, okay? So if you go to that deed book and page, it is a warranty deed of hers, it's her. It's actually, she had owned this big tract of land, and she got it in her maiden name, and then she was transferring it to her married name. Cool, easy peasy. And it's just one of those legal descriptions where it's like, plat of survey recorded at plat book 30, page 96. And when you look at it, it was just a big chunk of land, all right? So we do our title search, it's this big chunk of land, she owned it for like 10 years, and then she sold 2 little parcels off, cool. So we sell, our legal description says big tract of land, less than accept 2 tracts of land. We do the closing. This was in a small little tiny county, and the closing that we did was in May. In December, the county clerk, and this is how you know it was a small county, the county clerk calls our office and is like, hey, the seller on this, she just conveyed a parcel that overlaps on this. We're like, what? So we had sold probably about 7.8 acres. Well, she conveyed to her son 5.5. So we called her and we're like, what's the story, lady? And she was like, well, I was only selling 1.69 acres to the other people. So we do a quick title search, literally 2 weeks before closing. The seller had filed a new plat. She had parceled out all this property, 5.5 to son, 1.69 was supposed to go to our buyers. Lots of things happened here, right? That should not have happened. Like she should have said, I just redid a plat. So I would just say, when you got a big tract of land, that's the big question. You've got to nail down, what are we selling? And a lot of times these properties, they have been in the family. I mean, this piece of land had been in the family for 50 years, you know, grandma gave it to her, mama gave it to her, you know, all the things. So these people know what their land is, but you don't. So that's it, clarify. She hands off this, you know, and you just said, if you're getting that, look up the deed that she just handed you, and you see that it was like from 1987. Well, have you filed anything updated on this since then? You know, you just continue to clarify. I will take ownership. One of the things that we didn't do was at the closing table say, wow, this looks like 7.7 acres, is that what you're intending to sell? That was the last line of defense that did not occur. So, lots of bad things that we will all learn from, right?
So was the new survey not recorded yet? when you got
It
the
was
title search?
literally recorded the day that our title examiner went out to do the title exam.
Yep.
Which, y'all, that's called the gap, which is why we tell our people what? Get title insurance. Okay, that's another story. All right, thanks, y'all.
Hold that thought though, hold that, yeah, tell them why it's still important, even though it costs extra money to get title insurance. Does it protect them if someone goes in, sells their piece of property without them being aware of it, would it protect them against that?
The new enhanced coverage does have some protections for that, yes. Yes, it does. It's basically like it basically has the title lock. You know, when you see these commercials for title lock, it's basically already in there. So title lock is in your enhanced title insurance.
Oh, you got a question? Yes, ma'am.
So when we get the legal description or the warranty
Yeah.
deed, what additional questions should we as agents be asking?
I would just say, especially when it's a tract of land, have there been any updates to this plat? This is an old plat. Do you know if anyone's done any updates? Have you had it resurveyed? This lady had resurveyed this thing like 5 times. So there had been additional surveys. Is there a new survey? Surveys are like gold. So, and they're expensive. So if you have one, like, let's get it, let's share it. So that's a big one.
Yes, ma'am.
You have to have a new survey to get the title
You do
insurance.
not. You do not on a platted, I don't know what the rule is on if it's been platted, you don't, which is kind of crazy. So, that used to be, you used to have to, you're correct, you used to have to. I know, kind of crazy.
So now who owns that 5 acres?
Girl, I have been working on that for months.
I mean, I'm in suspense
yes.
over here.
No, so we have had to do, the reason why I do real estate law in Ashland too, is that nobody dies when we make mistakes. Now, the people are already dead when they come to us. So the great thing is we can fix things with paper, and that is what we did. So yes, so the cleanup on this has been, the original seller, what have we had to do? The buyer had to quitclaim deed everything back that she got from the seller. Then the seller had to convey the 1.69 acres to her. Then I had to go to the bank and I had to get the borrower to reconvey, I basically, like, and now they have to re-sign a security deed.
Yeah.
Have to re-sign and then the bank had to quitclaim deed their interest back to the original seller.
Wow.
So there was a theoretical moment in time when the bank didn't have any collateral.
Correct, we won't tell them that, we will not tell them that. They know, I mean,
Yeah, of
but
course
yeah,
they did.
yeah, but,
Right.
yeah, good
Come on
times.
in, guys. Okay, great, okay, come on up.
Joel.
Woo!
Good morning, everybody. Good
morning.
I'm Kyle. Say again? Oh, I do. Yes, I do. First, in fact. I'm Kyle with Supreme Lending.
I'm Hunter McElroy with Supreme Lending. We're gonna get into a couple of things today for you guys.
Yeah, first is just a little tip and just kind of a reminder that January and February are historically sort of slower months as we come off the holidays. It's dead of winter. Not right now, it's not, but normally it's dead of winter. And we really start to see an influx of business here in March and beyond. And so it's always a good thing to get your buyers pre-underwritten, so that when the time comes and they're putting in offers, that they kind of have that edge as things improve. And then also, I always remind my clients that I've been talking to over the past couple of months that might not have a lot of money, not necessarily that I remind them, but I'll touch base because, I'll touch base with them to say, hey, if you're gonna use a tax refund for any of your closing costs or down payment, it can be a good little tool that people might not be thinking of, so just kind of keeping yourself sharp there.
Yeah, and a couple more things. We're gonna have a class on February 27th. From 11:30 to 1. My underwriter is gonna come here in the office and she is gonna teach a class on how to underwrite self-employed people, specifically real estate agents. So,
She's gonna teach a class online.
say again,
She's gonna teach a class online.
on underwriting self-employed borrowers, what she looks for. So she's got a set of dummy tax returns that she's gonna go through and say, this is what we look at. This is how you calculate, depreciation, stuff like that. So we think that would be really good information for February 27th from 11:30 to 1. We'll also have lunch that day. So and the week leading up to that, either myself or I'll get with you. We'll send out a questionnaire for you guys to go ahead and submit questions. It's going to act as a class, but it'll also be a Q&A as well. If there's any specific questions that you guys have, that will be the time to get it answered. And then secondly, and I'm going to touch very briefly on this, I've gotten some questions from agents and borrowers on the recent tariffs that have come into play. Regardless of what side of the political aisle that you fall on, right now it's too early to determine what kind of impact that is going to have. The whole premise of those tariffs is to promote economic growth and to have better trade relationships with other entities. So right now, as you can see, I think the most recent one is with Canada that has been postponed for 30 days. There's a reason why they're not taking effect right now, or at least some of them. That gives us more time to figure out what we are going to do or what they are going to do in terms of trade relationships. But that does have an impact on interest rates and the market as a whole. But right now, it's simply just too early to know exactly what kind of impact that's going to have. But if you guys get questions about that and you don't feel comfortable having those conversations, reach out to myself or Kyle. We're more than happy to have those for you. So so far, so thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions, guys?
What's the difference between pre-approval and actually being approved?
Yeah, so a pre-approval, and that is where the loan officer is reviewing and giving the pre-approval. Going for a formal pre-approval, or what we call a credit commitment letter, that is where I reviewed everything, but I also submitted it to an underwriter, even though we're not under contract yet, sent it through the process, and an underwriter has reviewed and approved it. And then, essentially the difference there is when we have a credit commitment letter, we give our thumbs up to say you don't even need a finance contingency. You can waive that because we already know that you've been approved by underwriter.
And those could be two very different things, as you can imagine. My income calculation can sometimes be very different than my underwriters, depending on, how conservative or aggressive, she wants to get or I want to get. So that's why it's very important that you have, a very good relationship with your operations team to make sure that everybody's on the same page, to make sure that you don't run into a situation where, I'm using 14,000 a month for income and she's got 4. That's a pretty big discrepancy, so.
Yeah.
But we'll go through all that stuff on the 27th, just so you guys can see sort of the checklist that we go through. And maybe that will help you, aid yourself in filing your own tax returns to some degree. So, do you guys have any questions for us?
Over here, William?
Do you think this tariffs war will affect international buyers?
International.
I mean, I think Jim wanted to answer that. Will the tariffs affect international buyers? I would say, maybe to some degree. Again, I'm gonna stick to what I said earlier, where it's too early to determine what kind of long-term impacts that's gonna have, if any. But I would say in the short term, just because it causes volatility in the stock market, which in turn affects bonds, so.
Right, because ultimately, just as a economics 101, tariffs at its root is a mechanism that's used similar to the Federal Reserve changing interest rates, where we are adding taxes to imported goods that we pay as the United States citizens or importers, we pay that tax. That good is now more expensive than it was previously, so it de-incentivizes the purchase of that good relative to an American-made or a non-tariffed good. So it then builds up the desire for American manufactured goods and things like that. So initially it's gonna be inflationary and then hopefully it settles out, but nobody knows what goes on after that.
All it is, and whenever people ask me to put it in the simplest terms, a tariff is just an economic weapon. It is a tool that governments use to get what they want, more favorable trading terms. That's really all it is. So we'll see how that plays out.
Any other questions you all at all? Anybody questions? Going once, going twice. Thank you,
Good.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you for our wonderful sponsor, The Closing Company. Come tell them what The Closing Company does, Kim. How many years you been with Kim?
Wow, we've been in business for 20 and here for 19.
Yeah, let's give them a hand for 19 years.
I know I don't look that old, but anyway. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you. You all have been supporting us for a very long time. For those of you who don't know who we are, we're professional real estate assistants, essentially. So whenever you get a binding agreement and you feel like you need help, maybe you've been on the emails until like 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night trying to get your work done and you're missing out on time with family. Or maybe you've worked on a couple of contracts, maybe you got to the closing table, maybe something was missing and you forgot about it at the last minute, you had that scramble. Or if you're like waking up and you're like, oh my gosh, did I miss that deadline? Things like that. Those are things that we can help with. So, we're an extra set of eyes and hands on the transaction. From the very beginning, you can send it to us. We're going to review the contract, request anything that's missing, send you all the contract deadlines. We get it turned into command for you so you don't have to touch command, submit the commissions tab. We're reaching out to the other agent, introducing ourselves as your assistant. We're reaching out to your client and to the co-op agent. And basically, we're watching the timelines on that contract, making sure that the financing is done in time, making sure that the title is clear, as we talked about before here a little bit earlier. And, just making sure that nothing falls through the cracks so that you look good at the closing table. If you're interested, you can give me a call. I'm gonna match you up with a closing coordinator on our team. That's gonna be your same person every single time, so that when you talk to your clients and you're, about to write a contract, you say, hey, when we go under contract, you're gonna be hearing from Heather. She's, an extension of me, so please feel free to reach out to her at any time for any questions. I'm always here for you, but, you'll hear from her from time to time during the transaction. And my people love working with Keller Williams agents, especially newer agents out there. We love your contracts. They are so good, so tight. We're just here to help you. And let me know if you all have any questions.
All right, so when do you recommend a brand new agent starts using you?
Well, that depends. Some people like to use us for the first couple of transactions because it can be a little bit like having a mentor along on the ride with you so that nothing falls through the cracks. Some people prefer to do the first couple themselves and get a few under their belt so they know a little bit more of what's going on. And then use us when they start getting that second transaction in a month. I mean, hey, if you've only got one transaction a month, you can handle it, right? It's no big deal. But when you get the second one, things start to roll, and some agents find is that when they get the second transaction for the month, what happens is all they're doing is contract to close, and they're not looking for new business. And so when those things close, all of a sudden they look up and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have any more business, and business can start going like this. So hiring, help makes it so that, we see about, 10 to 13 hours per transaction. So, if you take that time, gosh, if you even lay on the couch for 8 hours and take 3 hours to regenerate, you're gonna be able to bring in more business and make that, worthwhile.
Okay, let's give her a hand. She brought let's go around here, and then we'll get, okay, Y4C2Ts. Let's see, who am I not asking? Lily, I'll ask you this one. What's your favorite Y4C2Ts this morning?
Commitment.
All right, why commitment, Lily? Why is that important to you?
Because if I'm committed to my clients, I know that my clients will be taken care of.
Yeah. And
if taking care of a client will give me another client, it's worthwhile.
Lily is very passionate about taking care of her clients, almost too much sometimes. She makes sure they're taken care of. I'm not surprised that you picked that. The commitment in all things, be committed or just don't do it. I love that. All right, next, tax write-offs as an agent. Instructor is Kathy Strobeck. She's been here before, right? Yeah. So that's Wednesday, February the 5th, 11 to 12. Guys, you need to come see this in person only. It's coming up tomorrow, so be here 11 to 12 if you want to know about tax write-offs and what is legal and what you cannot do. Let's talk ChatGPT and Chill Real Estate Edition with Amanda Warren. Amanda Warren understands this better than almost anybody I know. Is coming up Monday, February the 10th, in person only, 11 to 12, here or downstairs?
Probably up here.
Probably up here. So guys, if you want to know more about ChatGPT, and come and listen to Amanda. She is great at that. Thank you, Amanda. Drip campaigns and lead workflows happening on Wednesday, February the 12th. In this class, I will cover how to use lead magnets on social media, the different types of drip campaigns, and what you put aside drip campaigns to maximize conversation, guys. So this is happening on Wednesday, next Wednesday, February 12th, from 10 to 11, guys. A lot of good stuff going on. Keller Williams Atlanta North, All White Awards Banquet. Tuesday, February the 25th at 9 a.m. at the Atlanta Country Club, 500 Atlanta Country Club Drive in Marietta. Guys, please come to this. It's a really fun event. Bob Kalinsky, who is one of the owners of the region, will be there with his wife, Linda, to share some thoughts with us. So he will be there, guys. You will love it, whether you're getting an award or not. Come, hang out with us, have a fabulous breakfast, guys. Enjoy the time again. And again, that is on the 25th, the last Tuesday of the month. All right, lessons learned. So very briefly this morning, someone tell me what the word fiduciary means.
Trusted advisor?
Say it again?
Trusted advisor.
Trusted advisor, okay, I like that. What else does fiduciary mean?
So legal responsibility to act in the best interest of the client.
That's that, I like that one too. In other words, their needs are gonna come ahead of your needs always. You always do it that way. Anything else come to mind with fiduciary? So in the state of Georgia, are you a fiduciary for your clients?
No, no,
Who
we're
says
trusted,
yes?
no, we're trusted advisors.
Oh, you said no, but who else, anybody else want to disagree with her? Well, the answer is you are not. It says in the contract, guys, you are not that person. And people still use that word out there. So you have someone tell you that you're supposed to be a fiduciary for them, the answer is, no, I am not. That's not what I do. And you still need to put their interest ahead of yours, but that's what you want to do. So, speaking of someone taking care of me, come on up here, Russell and Beth, and tell us a little bit about the do not call list. And tell them about the experience that you guys had. Let's welcome Beth and Russell to the cancel that Can I ask you while we're here? Russell, does Jazz Hobeck really exist? Who? Jazz Hobeck?
Yes, she exists. She's off making.
She's off making, yes.
Off making documentaries. I told Beth this should be like the Beth and Russell Rhodes show.
Yeah.
Actually, thank you. Can we switch sides?
Like lights on or off, guys?
Maybe half,
Huh?
half and half.
I wish we could.
Did you bring your checkbook?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Yeah, I carry my checkbook everywhere I go, for when I need to get groceries and, you know. Checkbook. How old are you?
Are you dissing on me?
Yeah, a little bit.
Going back to the music, aren't we?
Yeah. We got a theme going.
So, question for you. Cool. Who has $3,000 on them right now?
Cash?
Why?
Gold
Or checkbook.
or checkbook? What if I told you you had to hand over that $3,000 to somebody you've never met because of something you did inadvertently? Or maybe on purpose.
Would not like that.
Wouldn't like it, would you? How do we learn lessons?
From other people's mistakes.
From other people's mistakes. We'll learn from our mistake today and listen carefully. We just wrote a check for $3,000 to somebody we've never met because we failed to abide by the do not call registry. It was painful. The last thing I want to do is have someone tell me that we violated this, and by the way, we're taking you to court. This was a settled amount, not the original amount, by the way. We enticed the person to take it, and luckily they did. We robo-texted him a total of 6 times. He replied with,
Beat it.
beat it, which meant what?
Stop.
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 Unfortunately, our system, we caught it, but one of our ISAs.
One of our VAs, yeah.
Accidentally started a drip campaign back when. We're here to tell you, be careful of this. You wanna make sure that you have a system in place in case you go to an open house and you gather information, in case you're out at a party and you gather information, in case you're doing some event and you've got a table set up and you have people signing up giving you contact information. Beth is actually our in-house person that's been diving because we had a new date.
Yeah, we turned, so y'all, did everybody hear about how January 27th was, the new TCPA was gonna go into effect? Did anybody, like, raise your hand if you had any idea? We'll get there, but I'm just curious, like, who had any idea that there was a TCPA change going into effect January 27th?
We did not.
We didn't. We kind of found this out through this whole $2,000 check. We started diving into do not call, and then that led to learning about TCPA. And so we joked that January 27th turned into the new August 17th. Because we were trying to figure out what to do and we had no idea what to do and there was a lot of information and we didn't know what was what. So we've kind of broken this down a little bit. As far as the do not call, there's 2 different things. There's the DNC, the do not call registry, and then there's the TCPA. So the do not call list is anybody that's registered in a database that doesn't want their phone numbers used for, you know, telemarketing, et cetera.
How many people in this room were registered in the do not call list? Okay.
If we registered when it first came out, do we need to update that?
No, I went
It's
and
on
looked
there.
up mine because I was gonna register and it was really weird. It said I've been registered since 2004 with a phone number that I have now that I got in about 2010. So I'm very confused by it, but I'm on it and I don't even remember doing it. So
It doesn't slow down the scam or robocallers.
No, sure doesn't.
Politicians.
But now people are starting to learn how they can then make $3,000 on it. So that's where it gets a little scary. So we just pulled this straight off the website, dnc.gov or donotcall.gov. So it's just talking about, all the things that you can do in terms of registering your phone. This is for the consumer, obviously. The next slide is kind of talking about how if you go to telemarketing.donotcall.gov, as a seller or a telemarketer, which is where we land, it gives you the opportunity to register so you can access the do not call list, which is what you all want, which is to be able to see who's on the do not call list.
What's that website?
Telemarketing.donotcall.gov.
So if you go to the donotcall.gov, it will, if you scroll down, you will see this website. It's a hyperlink, it will take you to it.
So a couple things with do not call. Per NAR, you cannot call anyone that's on the do not call registry. There's a couple ways that you can get around that, and one of those is if you have a transaction, so you close or you lease, you have a closed transaction, you've got 18-month window where you can reach out and you can market to those people. After the 18 months, then you have to get their consent if you're going to offer your services. Existing business relationships, so if anybody makes an inquiry to you, you have 3 months where you can reach out and you can market. So those are the two big ones, the 90 days and the 180. While the list is there, and I haven't looked into how that works, we use a system called Call Action. That's what got us busted on this, which is an auto texter, it sends out voice memos, etc. But Call Action scrubs all the numbers that we have going in. So we've scrubbed our database. We had 13,000 people on the do not call. So we've had to go in and shut off every kind of, outreach that we have. It doesn't include email, so you can always email. That's totally okay. But we've decided to be safe rather than sorry, and so we've pulled everything off. And then we can slowly, if they make inquiries, we can come back and start talking to them again. The existing business relationship, the 18-month is important. If y'all use any sort of lead sources, so again, we're coming from the position of a team. So we use Zillow, Realtor.com, HomeLight, Fast Expert, all of those. They all have consent built in when people go into that platform, and then the lead gets delivered to us. So we're under consent with them. The only way people can take consent away is that they take consent away. So once you consent, that stays forever unless they say stop calling me. For y'all, and this is, I know it gets blurry and we're still trying to figure some of the stuff out. Fortunately, we have a year. If you haven't heard, they delayed this whole thing to 2026. So the TCPA rule, which is, in a nutshell, it used to be one-to-many consent. So you'd have Zillow. Someone goes on Zillow, and Zillow's got a thing at the bottom that says, I consent to Zillow Inc. giving my information to their affiliates abroad, and they can reach out to me. So that was the loophole that was being used. So what they did is they came in and they decided to close the loophole, and they decided to make it a one-to-one consent. So now it really truly has to be, I give you consent and by name, and then that's what the consent looks like. We know that a lot of these lead sources have already updated it. We've updated our website. The biggest thing, and Russell alluded to it earlier, is that when you do go to an open house, or you do a job fair, or you just meet people organically, you really don't have consent if you're gonna put them into your database and start calling them, and that's where it gets a little tricky, and that's where we're still working on what we're gonna do on that. It's something, you need to do something to scrub these numbers against the DNC.
But even during the 18 months, they'll continue, if I have permission during 18 months, but if I withdraw it, then you gotta stop that, right?
Correct. The second someone says stop, don't call, whatever, that's it, that's a hard line and you are done.
And someone on the do not call list, do you get one free, if they're on the do not call list and you call them, do you get
The
free?
safe harbor, yeah, there's a safe harbor, I believe it's 31 days because someone can register on the do not call and it takes 31 days for it to show up. So you get the one oops where you can reach out to them. It's, again, like I said, we've decided to pull everything back. We've met with lots of different people, and one of them just said, right now the sharks are circling. Everybody smells the money that they can get from this. And so his suggestion was take all those leads that are just, they're doing literally nothing. You've been in your system for years. you've got 0 on them, leave them alone. Just leave them alone for 3 to 6 months, let everything kind of die down, and then you can start figuring out what you wanna do. But again, we have a whole year.
Angela,
You said you scrubbed your list and found 18,000 on the DNC.
Yeah.
How did you scrub your list?
So call action, we use call action and they do it for us. So that's the system we're using right now.
So is that an ongoing, every time you get a lead, you run them through there, or is it a
No.
one and done type of?
We're not doing it right now every time we get a lead because right now, basically every time we get a lead, they're coming through some way that they've signed a consent, so we're good. So what I'm doing instead is all the leads that are currently with my team that come back because they're not viable, or let's say they wanna wait a year, they come back to me and I scrub them before attaching any sort of an action plan or drip campaign. I make sure they're not on the DNC.
And that's taking it one by one and putting it into that
Yeah.
telemarketing?
In the call action.
Because what we would do, Angela, is we would automatically in the drip campaign, there would be several texts that would go out to them. It was all set depending on what we picked out of the drip campaign. So we were hitting with email, text, then the ISAs were calling them. So
We're having them live somewhere separate. Once they hit that DNC list, they live somewhere separate in our database, so our ISAs don't talk to them either. They're over there. But we don't trash them either, because if they drive by one of our listings and wanna call us, we wanna be able to help them. So, and then that becomes an inquiry and then we're back to consent.
So you said you can call, you can't call, but you can email,
You can email, you cannot call or text, but you can email,
okay.
yes.
So if somebody registered at our open house, does it mean that they give us permission to contact them if they provide a phone number?
I believe you need to have specific wording, and this is, I'm gonna say what everyone has said to us, which is we need to talk to legal about that in terms of what that wording looks like. It has something to do with what their name is, what their actual phone number is, and the consent. We right now just have a form that people sign in on, but we're gonna adjust ours to something online. We can do something online where they go on an iPad and sign in, and that brings them into a consent where they check that box and then they're good. So you're gonna have to look into that a little bit in terms of how it works with an open house to confirm that you have consent to reach out to them.
the answer is there's no simple answer for this, because
No.
you can call me one time and I can still come ask you for the money.
There is, right, correct.
Yeah,
So, and I think we've got it up here somewhere, it is $500 per infraction. So that's this guy that sent the demand letters to us, he had this is how many times, this means you owe us this much. The other piece of this though is that he tried to say we had X amount of times where we reached out, but our system records all of our text messages, all of our calls, all of our emails, et cetera. So we were able to then go grab our screenshots and we had the proof that we did not do it that many times. So whatever system you're using, you're gonna wanna look at having something that shows all of your outreach so that you've got that backup.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I know this is the way it used to be back in the day. I don't know if it's still this way or not, so maybe Kimberly can help me answer this, but a long time ago, you checked your note, you called somebody that was on the do not call list by accident, and they said, hey, I'm on the do not call list, don't call me again. You, the agent, then goes into the do not call system, makes a note that I contacted this person on February the 4th, they have requested not to be called again. Then, if we have somebody else from our office call them, because they're calling through a similar list, and if they don't go and check that note and see it, and they call them too, then we've just lost our one freebie with the first person, and that second person that's called them is the one that's gonna get dinged for the money in the office. So just make sure, guys, if you're not using a system to scrub your list,
Yeah.
that you're going in personally and checking them. And for that first agent that called, it is imperative, if you call somebody and they say they're on the do not call list, you go into the system and you make a note in that person's card that's on the do not call for future agents that might call them.
They talked a lot about that in terms of how you need to have your system in place and of how your checks and balances, because the one time you make a mistake, you're open up for class action. It's not just a one and done, it's a big deal.
Is there any difference between like specific like CRMs that are automated texting versus like me personally? Cause a lot of people raise their hand when they're on the do not call list.
So that's a really good question because, and it goes more to the TCPA, and should be in front of all of you, and if you don't have one, there's empty seats that have it. This is just a quick chart. All the TCPA stuff that's gonna go into effect next year has to do with auto dialers and robocalls and AI, and it doesn't have to do with a human picking up a telephone and calling another human.
Okay.
But that's the TCPA. The DNC is, you still can't call anybody that's on the DNC, so it's twofold, they're all like intertwined, yeah.
Question. So Sherry, you just said if somebody says, do not call me, you go into a system, well,
Go into the do not call system.
into the do not call, that's what I wanted to
And
clarify.
make a note.
Okay.
And if, guys, if you're the agent that called the seller and they said, please do not call me again, and you don't go in and make the note in the do not call, you're just as liable, because you didn't follow through and make the note in the do not call system.
Got you.
Wait a minute. So we have to go to the website?
Yes.
Yes, and if somebody says, hey, do not call me, I'm on the do not call list, you have to go into the do not call site and make a note by that person's name. That I called this person on this date, they've asked us not to call.
And where is this website?
Website.
Did you know that?
Do not call
Do not call.
Go to the donotcall.gov.
So we are registered somebody
You register at telemarketing.
You can go down, scroll, and this is the hyperlink that's there. And that's where you're going to go.
I mean, we are, if I'm calling somebody, I'm calling you, you're telling me that I don't want to talk.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't, I'm on the do not call list, don't call.
Okay, so I'm going to that list, even if that person is not registered there, and I have to register that person that he doesn't want to be bothered?
Well, this is where you're going to check to see if they're registered, first of all.
Right.
They will show up here.
If they are registered, they will show up.
They
If
will
they were
show up.
telling the truth, they will show
Yeah.
up.
I can't read that, what does that say?
So it is telemarketing.donotcall.gov.
Would you mind to email it to us? Oh, I got
We
it.
can. I don't know what's on the bottom of that, but
It's-
is it on the bottom?
No.
No, but this information
Telemarketing.donotcall.gov.
we pulled
I'll send it out and recap.
This
some
is the do not
information
call
from
list.
NAR too,
And
so.
guys, when you joined us, this was in your new agent packet, this information when you joined us.
Really?
I know.
15 years ago.
15 years ago.
Don't y'all still have that packet sitting right under your, right in your car seat?
I have a pocket.
Newer agent.
Okay.
Sherry, yes, it's sitting right on my car seat. Trust me, Sherry, you done that the first phone call. Are you kidding me? He didn't stop. He went all the way to Gene Rawls, Lynn McGraw, and he just kept going.
So
I'm like, that's when I guess we gotta do something.
You know, we're using call action and it's working well for us,
How
but
much
I-
is that?
that's what I don't know, but what I was gonna say is if you look into it, another thing that Call Action has that's really great is they actually scrub for litigators. So they tag leads that are known litigators, and so those people we're trashing, like we are making them disappear out of our system. But I Googled it just to kind of see how many, and there's plenty, and especially right now, there's lots of people that are ready to come in and start helping scrub. I think you just have to probably go and look at reviews and history and how long they've been in business.
Have a 14-day trial.
Yeah. So,
Callaction.com.
I see y'all.
we've got time to figure out the TCPA stuff, which is good, but we're not, the thing that blew our mind was that this all came down in
I'll send it to you.
2024, there was a year everybody had to get up to speed
Nobody
and
was
ready,
speaking
and
about
no one talked about it. And then this whole thing happened to us in December, and then we started going, hey, are you gonna talk about it, you know, we're, hey Zillow, what's the plan for this, what are you talking about, we don't even know what you're talking about, like, you're Zillow, how do you not know what we're talking about, so, I don't know if that's why they delayed it a year or what, but now we're gonna get everything in place, all systems, all training, et cetera, because that's a big piece of this, is that you can show, this is what we do, this was a mistake, versus we don't know what we're doing, so, you know, come after us. And you know they're gonna come after you, and they're gonna come after us, they're not gonna go after Zillow, they're not gonna go after realtor.com, it'll be us, so.
Are y'all any
Good times.
questions about this? Anybody you wanna ask?
That's great information.
We have
Thank you for
Oh, good,
sharing.
good, good. Question, am I on a time limit? Yes, ma'am.
So the sources like Mojo, RedX, Vulcan that are supposed to scrub, do we trust their data
You
or
need to
we still
find
need
out
to?
like, we've had to call each one of our lead sources and go, tell us what you're doing, tell us how you're doing it, tell us what you're doing, tell us how you're doing it. Right? So I would call Mojo, or I would figure out from their website if they were scrubbed.
Mojo
And-
says that they scrub their own data, But if you import data, that's just your own.
Because you're taking it out of their system into yours, and at that point, I guess it's not guaranteed. I would really ask one of their customer service reps, explain to me, you know, how do we know it's on the do not call list if you're sending it to us? But then we get into the, did you get consent because they've agreed that Mojo can hand off that lead to an agent? So then you need to know what the consent looks like. The consent's where TCPA comes in, because right now it's one to many. So all these lead sources go one to many, it's gonna go 1-to-1 next year.
Now, what about expires?
That's fun.
So you can call expires and you can call FSBOs as long as you are just making an inquiry and you're not offering services. So even if they're on the DNC, you can call them. Just wanted to know if you're still have your home listed.
So they don't fall in the 180-day protection period?
Is killing me, Sherry, I searched,
Cannot find.
I
I
cannot
thought
find
that-
where I
I
read
read
it,
it,
but
but
I
I
have it
haven't
in my,
made
like, I have a
protection period.
photographic memory, and I know I saw a whole thing that discussed that expireds and FSBOs, you can call them, they're not exempt if they're on DNC, because they've had their property listed, as long as you're not calling and offering services.
And what does that mean? Cause
Yeah.
the whole purpose of us calling is to.
Your opening line would be, I'm curious to know if your property is still listed.
So the
Like,
whole
get
purpose
into a
of the-
conversation, not, hi, I'm Angela and I was curious if you'd like to hear more about how I could sell your home.
So the whole
Just the
purpose of the
verbiage.
do not call is strictly telemarketing, sales calls, right?
Yeah.
It was to reduce all of that. So basically you're saying, you can do that as long as you don't, sell them something, i.e. services or all of that stuff. So like she said, just curious, is your home still on the market?
But I mean, if they start asking questions about your services, then you can.
Yeah,
Exactly.
then you can engage.
Yeah.
Say, what would you want
Yeah,
different in
how
a realtor? I mean, you just ask generic questions.
Mm-hmm.
Any particular reason why you think your home did not sell, just curious?
Yeah, ask those leading questions to start the conversation.
Not, hey, you didn't hire the right realtor, can I come over and, show you what I can do?
I would love to come over and do
That
all
would
this
be-
presentation for you.
As your team leader, I will tell you, if you call someone, expires and whatever, and they're on the do not call list, and they wanna come after you for money, they can still do it though. They can still come after you for money, it's your chance to say, no, I don't believe you, or no, I'll take that chance in court. But guys, you cannot stop them if they're on the do not call list, am I oversimplifying that?
My understanding is you can call expires and FSBOs that are on do not call because you have to be able to call them. What if you're not looking to try to get the listing, you've got a client that wants to buy their house, you have to be able to call them.
I'm telling you, I would still work and make the decision, I would still
Yeah,
work.
I defer to
It's
them.
safer
Safer
than
than
sorry, absolutely.
And I'm still gonna hunt for where I read it, so.
That's been around for a long time. There was an argument at one point that said, if your home is already listed or been listed, then you gave the people in FMLS the ability to call you. But I'm not sure that's still true.
Well, and
It's
you know-
listed in the listing agreement that you give consent to be called,
Right.
but it specifies from your brokerage.
And I've spoken to Cheryl about this, and she's gonna take a deeper dive into looking at that to see if
Yeah.
there needs to be changes in that form.
Because
Come to the
it
GCPA.
makes it seem like if Quan listed, only Quan agents can call.
Correct.
And if Atlanta Communities list, we can't call.
Yeah, so I brought that to her, I asked her about that, both in the buyer brokerage agreement as well as the list.
Do your homework.
Yeah.
We'll keep you posted, the
Yeah.
more we learn, but just learn from our mistake, check that do not call list.
And
Alright.
did it mean stop?
Who knew?
In all honesty, Russell and I were ready to go to court. Like,
Yeah.
we will beat this guy.
Gunnar's like, what do you wanna do? I'm like, let's go to court.
Court.
He's like, let's write a
Let's
check.
write it.
I said, bring your checkbook and about
I'm like,
$50,000.
Yeah.
Legal fees can be $50,000, so
Right.
that's.
I mean, it is what it is, and he made me do all the dirty work, he made me call the guy. Cool, I can't get it to work, sorry. Alright, we're gonna shift gears. Go through that. Now, I was laughing as I was putting this together, who knows what 3 on a tree is?
What is,
Okay, hang on, 3 on a tree? Jim,
I.
you're the one I expected.
This is
Sounds
how
like a
old
country
you
saying.
are. No one in this room knows what
Wait a
you're
minute,
talking about.
I know what it is.
You're also old.
Wow, wow, what's 3?
I said we have a broad scope of knowledge.
There you go, that's it.
Season,
So-
season.
So, just before you say what it is, This was an actual, this is not the actual truck, but this is what our truck looked like when I was single digits, 10 years old. It's a 1965 Chevy. What's 3 on the tree?
It's the manual transmission on the column, steering column.
For the young ones in the room, we actually used to have to shift our gears in a car, right? By the way, this thing did not have power steering or power brakes. I can
windows.
What's that?
Or power windows.
Or power windows. Yeah, you used to have to roll over. Then we had these little vent things that you would push out.
And you didn't know where you were going?
AM radio, maybe.
If you had a radio. There was no air conditioning, by the way. No air conditioning. This is where it actually, you actually used to shift gears.
Yep.
Right, on the column. Again, you young ones, sorry, this is how we used to do this. Anyway, I don't know why it struck me as funny.
So this has absolutely nothing to do with anything.
Nothing.
At all.
Just struck me as funny.
This morning they were going over, he's like, oh, I'm just gonna talk about this car. I'm like, okay.
I was actually hoping Rob would be here.
I know, right? It's
Who went to Market Stats or this past Wednesday? What is it? Who is it? So a handful. So you know we get the MMO reports. Who looks at these every month when Kimberly sends them out? Hopefully everybody's hand goes up. Okay, and then the quarterly Market Matters that we go to at the Rawls Group. These are 2 tools that you should have in your tool belt at all times. Okay, we're gonna spend just a few minutes, let me get your take on this, talking about some of the slides. There's going to be national overview, and then we're gonna go local with the MMO reports that we get. What do we get asked all the time? Reed, what do you get asked all the time? Kyle, what do you get asked all the time?
What are rates gonna do?
What are rates
gonna come down? When are rates coming down?
When are rates coming down?
Yes.
And what is your answer?
We said the same thing.
Yeah, we said it'll be the 5s next week. That's what Reed told us.
So I wish we had that crystal ball, right? I wish we had a crystal ball to go, next Tuesday when we're all meeting again, it's gonna be 5 1/4. But we don't. We don't. That's not to say that these guys can't get you 5 1/4. They probably could. Might cost the consumer a little more, but they can get it there. But the reason I put this up here is, this is the annual from 1972 to 2024, what interest rates look like. Okay? So what happened in the 80s?
Inflation. Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Or Mr. Carter. Rest his soul.
Rest in peace.
That was tough. Guess what happened back then though?
People still
Creative
We still sold houses.
Very creative financing.
We still sold houses.
I bought my first house.
What's that?
I bought my first house.
You bought your first house.
Me too. Me too.
Look at that. Do you still live in that same house, Susan?
No, sold it a long time ago.
Do we think we're sitting at a better spot than we were here?
Yes.
But what does the consumer see?
It's all relative.
It's all relative, because they're paying attention to 2021, right? When are we gonna get back here? By the way, Reed, Kyle, when are we gonna get back there?
Never.
Never?
To the twos?
Yeah, back to 2020 and 21.
On that one, I would probably say never. But
But again, you don't have a crystal ball.
But I would
Probably not.
tend to agree with both of you.
I would have said never in 2018. then it
That's
would be
right.
2s as
Right.
well, so.
Right. So this was the annual, here was the monthly. From 2022 to 2024, or 25, excuse me. Are we better than we were at the beginning of 24?
Depends. Are we talking about interest rates or prices?
Interest rates at the moment.
No. Well, I mean, I hear.
Slightly
No, it's
higher.
supposed to say.
Yeah, we're the same. Better than the end of 23?
yeah.
Hello.
Home sales. This was the other chart. Remember, this is national. Okay, we're looking at national numbers. I know we always talk about what when it comes to real estate? It's local micro markets, right? National look, home sales. What happened mid last year? August, July, August? Felt like somebody slammed on the brakes and everything came to a halt for about 2 months.
Well, that's when rates went up to 8%.
It's when they were topping. Okay, here's home prices. $410,000. Look at 97. I'm sorry, 90 at 97. Tariffs. Hunter left. My daughter called me the other day, day before yesterday, and she asked me this question. She said, Dad, curious, is our home value going to go up? Well, that's a broad stroke statement. Well, honey, what do you mean? She goes, because of the tariffs, is our value of our home going to go up? How would you have answered that question?
I don't see the correlation. I don't see the correlation.
Right. I was like, no. Like, my immediate response is no. Why are you asking? Is what I said. So there's something prompting this question. She goes, well, the tariffs, and I'm wondering if the tariffs, because wood's going to be more expensive, if our home value is going to go up. And I think I shocked her by my next statement, which was, honey, your home value is not going to go up because wood's going to get more expensive. I said, but I will tell you what will go up is your insurance premiums. Why? Exactly. If that is the case, if that is what happens. But it's not going to directly affect the value of your home. It would affect the value of your home in a new homes community.
New construction.
Right? So I just thought that was an interesting question coming from a 33-year-old. So I say that to remind you of what the consumer is seeing or what the consumer's thought process is out in the marketplace.
I had the same conversation with my client 2 days ago.
Really?
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
And when I asked him, why do you think that resale will go up? He's like, if new construction go up, then resale go up.
Got it. Yeah.
Direct correlation.
Yeah. Get it. Okay, months of supply. Are we in a buyer's market, seller's market, or a balanced market?
Sellers.
Sellers according to the National View right now, right? What is a balanced market?
6 months.
Say it again.
6 months.
What are we seeing though? When I say it's still a seller's market, what are we
More
experiencing?
inventory,
What's that?
more
We're
inventory.
seeing more inventory and
More buyers.
Buyers are more particular.
buyers more particular, but what are we seeing with the listings that are on the market?
Price reductions, longer days on
We're
market.
seeing price reductions, closing costs given, and days on market have gone up.
And does us having reduced prices, does that mean prices of homes are going down?
No.
Not necessarily, no.
These sellers are probably.
We're gonna talk about that in a second. Here's your more micro market of your 8 counties that Kimberly sends out every month that is done for us. Jeremy Trask does a great job putting these numbers together. If you've not taken a deep dive into these numbers to understand them, they're overwhelming. I get it. There's a lot of information. It's not to say you're gonna utilize every bit of it. Pick out what you will use and get to know it really well. So this just takes you back to December 2023, all the way to December 2024. It's a 1-year trend. You can look at it, go to the monthly market, look at it yourself, but just know this information's there. It literally gives you everything.
Who loves this, like, to look at something like this? Raise your hand if this is, you're like, yes. Who is like, please don't ever make me look at a chart like this again? Okay, got it, yeah.
By the way, I do not love it,
It's so much.
but we look at it to understand it, but it's overwhelming to me.
We were talking about like all the national stats, they're just good talking points, so you just can kind of know and you can help somebody along. Yes, we're in a seller's market, but you know what, inventory's gone up, I've looked at the charts and we're seeing an increase. This is something more along the lines if you're gonna go start working with a buyer or talk to a seller and they're in a specific county or a specific area, you can look at this and have more concrete data specific to that area. that can help them, and but to me, like, this is a lot, and I think you've got one more slide, and then I'm gonna, and the same thing here, this is talking about supply,
It's price,
right?
it's price
Or one of
points.
them, price points.
So it's showing you everything from new listings all the way down, showing you months of supply. What happens when we get into the 2 to 3 million? What happens?
A lot of supply.
A lot of supply and it turns into a
Buyers market.
buyer's market, right? Everything else still shows seller's market in your micro 8 county area.
So like going and diving into this can be, for those of us that raise our hands, it's overwhelming, it's a lot of information. If you haven't opened up all the market stats, know that they put together a summary and it's fantastic, because it's nice and bullet pointed, and that's what makes my heart happy, because then it just gives me little tidbits of information, which I think is on the next slide. Oh, not yet, okay. This is the annual
This talks about
appreciation.
annual appreciation. This is the national view. What happened here in 09, 08, 09, Tim? Who was in the business during that time? Fun time in real estate, wasn't it?
How about 2023, Russell?
What about it?
Zero.
0. No appreciation throughout the US. Was that a typo or was that for real? It's not a typo.
We felt it.
But I had to double check, so I called Michael Cheevers yesterday and I said, are we sure about this? He goes, we're sure. Because we all looked at it. I said, okay, what'd you find to be true for our area? 6%. We calculated it while we were on the phone yesterday.
Appreciation.
The appreciation. What is typical? What do we typically see as far as appreciation goes? 4%, Susan, right? Yeah. 4.
Yeah, but if you look at the 2 years before, you have
Yeah.
huge,
Yeah.
so you
Sure.
had to have a level outcome.
And
By the way,
that's the reason why these are so great when you're talking to people, so that when they think like, oh, I'm gonna buy this and my house is gonna, triple over the next 2 years, you're like, yeah, that was a little bit of an anomaly. Trending is this, and I've got the charts the data that show that.
so my daughter, I searched for a year and 3 months. My guys are so tired of hearing me talk about it. Took a year and 3 months to get them in a home. 11 offers later, they were ready for a new realtor. Don't blame them. And I said to them, we started out in the 350 area, sold them a house at 527.5. Blew me away that was their starter home. They will not have to move out of this to raise their children. It is big enough for them to grow in, and has appreciated by $60,000 in the short 7 months that they've lived, according to what I can tell. I said, don't get excited, that's not going to continue to happen. I know it may have happened, just hold tight, right?
That'll cover their realtor fees if they decide to put it on the market tomorrow.
I ain't doing it. I'm calling you. All right. Other facts and stats? Yes,
Can
ma'am.
we go back to the previous slide? That's around the time the interest rates went up, when we had that zero and that flattening. And it shows the importance of why interest rates had to go up to 8%, because
You
12
can't
is not
sustain that.
sustainable.
Yeah, you can't sustain it.
And so the cooling down of the market was forced, and it was necessary because we would just continue to skyrocket. We had to come down, take a breath, and then slowly build back up.
So I think the saying goes, what goes up must come down, what comes down won't stay down. And I think you're exactly right. However, I think they pumped the brakes really hard.
But it went off the rails really quickly.
Very quickly.
I mean, they had to do something very
Sure.
drastically, because, like you
Just-
said, we were looking at
Right.
70 offers on properties.
Right.
I think part of the problem is, I mentioned this in that video I sent out last week, that the data that the federal, okay, first of all, it's the trickle-down effect of the Federal Reserve's short-term rate decisions, right? They don't directly set mortgage rates. Part of the problem is that their model that they're looking at is always looking in the rearview mirror. And so they tend to either overreact or wait too long to react, and that's what I think happened there. That's what Russell was saying. They instead of beginning to gradually increase rates, they waited too long, and then they had to do it drastically. I mean, they should have done some quarter point rate increases 9-12 months before they started doing rates, and I think it would have been a lot easier to stomach.
So who has been in real estate in the market for at least 20 years? Okay, worst markets you ever remember, Valley?
Well, 2008, 2009.
2009?
Yeah, 2008 through 2010.
Anybody else? Everybody agree with that? What happened during 2008, 2009? Who remembers?
The market melted.
The market crashed, okay? Well, know something though? We sold just as many houses during that time as we did 10 years later. You know why? Investors bought them.
And we had to pivot. Those that pivoted very quickly and understood short sales and foreclosures are the ones, go talk to Courtney Newton. Go ask Courtney, because she pivoted very quickly. She saw it and she took advantage of it, and good for her.
And we made more money in 2008, 2009 than we have since. I told people in this room in 2011, buy a house right now. You should buy a
We
house
all
right
should have
now.
bought 4 or 5 of them right then and there. I mean, you're talking about a red light special on sale, that was when we should have bought them. So you're about to tell me I'm out of time because we got a few more slides. Are you good?
I'm good, yeah.
Okay. Are y'all good? Okay. Other facts, stats you should have ready to go in your arsenal. December sales were up year over year. Fourth quarter sales were up year over year. Fourth quarter sales prices were up year over year. Fourth quarter sales price versus original list price were down. Fourth quarter days on market were up. December 24 supply was up, which we just said. And then your fourth quarter homes that took price reductions were 49.1%, which added 2.4 months to the listing time that they were on the market. What does that tell us?
They were overpriced.
Overpriced. Who's running the show? Is it the agent that's afraid to go out there and tell the consumer exactly what the house should be priced? Or is it the seller going, no, I think I'm worth this? Or is it a combination?
It's both.
It's both, right? I think we could agree it's probably both. So that's, 40.9% of listings failed in Q4, by the way. That means they expired out of the market, did not sell. 70% overpriced in Q4. Ouch. I have even a more startling stat in just a second.
How was that number derived? 70% overpriced if the price reductions was
I would
40.
have to go back and look at the
Okay,
calculations. They're
sorry.
coming from the stats. No, it's fine.
I
It's fine.
wondered the same thing, I was trying to figure out, I was like, alright, is that the price reductions and the failed, like where did we get 70, yeah.
Who can agree what you say matters? And who can agree how you say it matters more? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's an example. You'll always be mine. Or. Right? At the end of the day, what are you doing that's different than what you've done before? Thrive in 25 is kind of a cliche when we agree. We've heard it a lot, probably. But it becomes about you, I, and everyone else sitting in this room. Do we agree that you and I get paid for the direct correlation to our ability to communicate effectively? You weren't convinced of that, Reed?
No, I've never thought about that before.
But that's what we do. We communicate, right?
Yeah.
We read what's going on in the market and we convey that and we communicate that. Who has ever had somebody not communicate something to them in a way and you've misunderstood it? I
We
think
don't
all
tell our
have,
buyers
right?
they're too old.
What's that?
We don't tell our buyers they're too old.
What
We
you
would
do-
never say that to a buyer.
Oh,
You're old.
Yeah. Beth might. She stood here and told me I was old.
Whatever.
Common themes that cost salespeople not to get the deal. So, when you build your case to talk to a buyer, and when I say case, I mean, like, when you're ready to present to them what you're going to do for them to help them in a transaction, whether it's buyer or seller, what do you do to prepare? Can somebody tell me? Nobody prepares? Do you wing
Prepare
it?
for a listing appointment, is that what you're asking?
What's that?
Are you asking what do we do to prepare for a listing appointment?
Yeah.
A consultation.
Or buyer?
A list of questions,
Okay. And you derive these questions from where?
buyer consultations that are, that we have access to. Questions like, what are your goals that you're trying to achieve? And things of that sort, like, what are your criteria?
Okay.
Why are you, what's your motivation?
Motivation's good.
Doing research and history on the property.
Okay, doing research and history on the property. Second thing, how creative are you? Are you going in there, are you a carbon copy of the last person that was in there? Or are you doing something different? Are you communicating differently to them? And lastly, how did you deliver that information? This is where you're gonna geek out. The consumer will listen to what you have to say through their own lens. So you might go in prepared. The way you're going to deliver the information may not be the way you want them to hear it. Okay, think about that. Know who your audience is.
Sometimes I'll go look, because we have, as lenders we know what they do for a living. And I'll go to see what they do for a living because it gives me an idea of the type of person that I'm going to be talking to.
If they're an engineer,
Exactly.
totally different than somebody that's in sales, correct?
Yep.
Right. Just
Right.
profile.
Can we agree? Yep. Perfect. 3 elements in which people get information, 3 elements in which we communicate that information. Ready? You want to talk about these?
So ethos is the appeal of your credibility or authority. Logos is the appeal to logic, and pathos is the appeal of emotion or heart. I think this is so huge because we all do know about disc profile, and this is just a different way to look at it. And we were talking this morning, and my favorite example, and I use it with the team a lot, and I don't know how many of you have ever met Gunnar Overbeck, Janice's husband. He is a high D, like look up D from disc personality in the dictionary. His picture is there. He is German, and he is like this guy. You guys have heard me talk enough to know that that is not me. I am pathos. So over the last 4 years, it's been a fun dance trying to collaborate with Gunnar, like, cause he and I work together a lot on things. And it took a minute, there was some growing pains there, because I'm like, let me tell you the story, this is how I feel and all the things, and he's like, what is the information, just tell me the list. And it's taken a while, but now I know how to talk to him, and he knows how to talk to me, he knows to give me a little bit of that, like, levity to, have my stories or whatever. But when you think about it, and I thought about this with our team as well, because we do deliver leads to our agents, and sometimes it like clicks and it is perfect, and then other times it's tough, and I wonder now as I look at this, if some of that is because I'm delivering a pathos lead to a logos agent, or vice versa. And so they're just thinking like this is a, it's a bad lead, or it's a not viable lead, or I didn't click, but maybe it's because we had a whole different personality style and the way we want information to come to us, but also how we deliver the information. As agents, we're the ones that are gonna have to make the adjustment long before those clients have to make the adjustment. So it really is about getting in there and reading the room. And the only way you can possibly read the room or read that person is to shut up and listen to them talk. Ask questions. It should be 90% you listening, 10% you talking. And that's how you're gonna figure out where they're at, where they're coming from, and how they want that information. And then you just have to make that adjustment. And that kind of goes back to the charts, I look at those charts and I'm literally like, okay. But I look at a summary and it's like some explanations and some paragraphs, I'm like, okay, this all makes sense to me. So the key is you have to have both. You have to have the charts and you have to know the charts, but you also have to be able to talk about the information and explain the information so that you're hitting all 3 of these different styles. And I think that that's huge. And I was listening to somebody talk about this, and I think most people would assume everybody's either logos or pathos, but apparently there's lots of people that are ethos as well. So you have to just kind of recognize, A, I would say know what you are, and then B, start to figure out how to read the people that you're talking to so that you can make those adjustments.
Which totally goes back to the, sorry, I went ahead.
Yeah, where do you?
That right there.
Yeah.
And that right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. When you meet with a potential client, buyer or seller, and you've done your strategy session or your needs analysis meeting, how do you close?
Next steps.
Next step.
Somebody role play it with me.
So once you sign, the photographer will be coming over on Tuesday. I'll be sending you a list of things to do to get ready for that. I will be putting the market on Thursday, scheduling for an open house on Saturday and Sunday, and just giving them those next steps so that they know sign, photography, or sign, the list, photography, listing, open house, et cetera.
Got it. So I'm sitting at the table and I'm the seller and I'm gonna say, thank you so much, Angela, for going over all that. I'll review all of this and let you know. Susan?
Yeah, I was gonna say, now that we've looked at all the information, how does that sound to you and are you ready to proceed? Or are you ready to go shopping or are you ready to list?
Is there anything else that I haven't covered that I could address?
Okay, anybody else? What do we hear most often? You're smiling, Margaret. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? I appreciate the fact that y'all didn't say, do you have any questions? I like the way you phrased that.
I assumed I already had it.
Yeah.
You've
Right,
already.
no, that's great, assumptive, I love it, that's great. Because if I'm going in a listing appointment, I'm assuming I'm taking the listing too. Right?
If you want.
The majority of the people ask, do you have any questions? Followed by, okay, I'll give you some time to think about it and I'll get back to you and see what you decide. You have blown an opportunity.
You gave them an out.
You gave them an out and you're sitting right in front of them most of the time. You have failed at getting that listing or that buyer to sign that agreement at that moment.
And, my coach would say, Jim, you got outscripted.
You got outscripted, you got outplayed.
That's why
Paige.
practice is important.
Yeah, Paige.
I like to get a pen in their hand. So when I've gotten to that stage, I go, this is something that we need to talk about, and this is probably the most important document that we're gonna look at today, and it is the, wire fraud disclosure, and I want to go over this with you. It's very, very important. Wire fraud is huge in our industry, and I want to make sure that you do not become a victim. I am your advocate in this. If you have any questions at all about any email, you call me, you call the person that has sent you the email, and if you'll just sign right here.
Yep.
So I'm getting that.
Getting that muscle memory ready to sign everything else
Yeah,
too.
and then it's, press here, sign here, press hard, 3 copies for the rest of the documents.
You prepped a lot of time to go on this appointment. You prepped a lot of time to go on this listing appointment or this buyer strategy session, whichever it is. Don't let it just stop at, okay, we'll think about it and I'll get back to you.
So Jeff Glover, I was at his summit a couple weeks ago, and he broke down his entire listing appointment for everybody. And the way he closes it is he'll say, "Are you ready for me to go to work for you?" And when they say, "Oh, you know what? We might need some time, maybe just the night to think it over," what he does is he comes right back and he says, "You know what? It sounds probably like we could use some privacy to just discuss this. I have a couple calls I need to make. I'm gonna step outside. I'll give you guys some time to discuss it. Just wave me back in when you're ready." And so he just physically removes himself from the room and he just gives them time to talk about it. And then when they wave him back in, he comes in like Angela and he's assuming he's got the sale and he's smiling and he's like, "Okay, so we good, ready to go?" And that's how he closes, which I think is pretty great.
Yes.
Hey, Russell.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Eric Decker. Hey, thanks for all this information to both of you. I was just thinking, now that I've answered all your questions and we've covered this information, is there anything preventing you from signing with me today?
100%.
That works. That's beautiful.
Yep.
Cool.
Let's move forward. That kind of freaked me out, by the way.
Whoa,
hang on, not ready to go yet.
Yes, it
Don't
will.
call my name.
We all
Didn't
heard
know
it.
today was the day. Okay, real
Russell,
quick.
Sorry for the old comments, Russell, I'm so sorry.
You jinxed me. Okay.
Russell, I am your father.
3 biggest mistakes that salespeople self-reported. This was a huge study. It was done across generations and in all sales aspects. They failed to close the sale. Being overly informative versus persuasive. Going back to all those charts, don't walk in somewhere and just throw out the charts on the table. You could lose somebody that quick. Read the room, and then winging it. Have y'all ever been in a hurry and you're just like grabbing this, grabbing that, printing this, and heading out to an appointment, and you get there and you feel unprepared? It happens. I can't say it's gonna not happen. do your research the best you can and be prepared to walk into that appointment.
I think people think like, they don't think they're winging it, I think they think, well, if I don't sit there and prepare a script and have it all like this, I'll come across more natural and I'll just it'll just, flow better. But Leah, at Phil Jones, what does he say? The worst time to think about something that you're gonna say is while you're saying it.
By the way, how many have ever called somebody when you don't get that listing to find out why you didn't get the listing?
Me.
Yeah, you call. It's okay, I've called before.
Always.
Right, figure out what you could have done better at that moment. 2 minutes, I promise we're out of here.
It's the exit interview.
Yeah, basically, right? Here's the scariest stats of all. Some of you may have seen them, ready? 74% of all realtors sold 0 homes in 2024.
We appreciate them.
As you should, right? That means they're just sitting back. 74%. I could have gotten 50. Cannot wrap my head around this 74. The one thing I don't know about this stat is this talking about people that could possibly be in a holding company? That's the one thing I don't know and I've got to find out.
But even still.
But even still, that's crazy to me. So everybody in this room, based on all the information that this company gives us, that's at your fingertips, can go collect your unfair share, as Sean Rawls used to say, of business, because there's plenty of it to go around, especially if 74% of realtors didn't know business.
It's not
last year.
unfair, we
Yes,
work
ma'am.
for it.
Pareto principle.
Yeah.
I
80%
mean,
of the
truly,
people,
that's,
20% of the people do 80% of the business, right? That does fall in that. And it's almost gotten down to 10% of the people, which Sean has also said, do 90% of the business.
yeah.
Right? 2% of the realtors sold between 11 and 20 homes.
That's kind of fun though, how many of you are in the top 2%?
Is this nationwide? Or Georgia?
Nationwide. This is a nationwide number. Thank you for clarifying that. 0.14 sold 45 or more homes.
45 or more?
Guys, you have an opportunity. You have a huge opportunity to go out there. You've got information at your fingertips that is put together for us. We work in a company where we share information. I can call up Paige at any time and go, hey Paige, can you talk through this with me? And she will answer my phone call. That's how fortunate we are, right? I don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to be somewhere in the middle just so I can learn from somebody else. Sherry and I learned something today, and I called Sherry, I said, we're never gonna stop learning, are we, about the contract? Always be learning. I thank Jim for giving me an opportunity 23 years ago when I walked in the Jenny Pruitt office and was not even a licensed agent at that point, to point me in the direction, to put me in the class, to pair me with 2 of the top agents at that company so that I would learn. And they were very willing to help me. Well, Carolyn was, Rob was, no, I'm just kidding. Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of stats, could you pinpoint like what's going on with specifically like Walton School District and the stats in terms of, actually I was looking at all of the homes on the market right now that are active, and it just seems like, did it appreciate significantly from like fourth quarter to now, because the especially the million and higher, one or even 1.5 and higher, it's like I'm seeing homes that just there's one like 1.2, 1.3, and that wouldn't have been that in fourth quarter. I don't think they were listed like that in fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden they're asking for so much more because of the lack of supply.
Yeah, and I can't speak to that only because I've not done a deep dive just into Walton. I will tell you, we listed a house last month for 1.8, and we had multiple offers on it. I was like, what in the world? Like, we were all blown out of the water. Right, so I don't know what's happening. I would have to take a deeper dive to understand it.
Yeah.
Are you all, so to close, if someone asked you right now, how is the market, how would you describe the market right now? Come on, give me some information. If I said, how's the market, please don't say, why do you ask? That's what we're looking at right now. How would you tell them the market is right now? Good time to buy and sell?
Good time to buy and sell.
Why is it? What's that true?
If you can afford the payment, now is always the best time to buy.
Yeah, if it fits into your budget, right? If it fits into your budget, it's a great time to buy.
if you are financially, mentally, and physically, which means all family together ready, it's the best time to buy.
I also want to say thank you for saying commitment when you look at the Y4 CGTs. I think we all have to be more committed than ever right now as we're going through 2025 to help our clients, because we want to obviously sell as many homes as we possibly can, or help people get into as many homes. But last time I was here and we were presenting, Paige gave me a book, Customer for Life. That is the goal. There is no such thing as a past client or a past customer. We've taken that out of our vocabulary. They are customers, and we want those customers for life. That's it, Jimmy. Thank you for having us.
Look at them, hand, guys. Thank you all for
Thank y'all for being here. Oh, these are some places, these are some people you can follow that give great information. Tom Ferry, Jared James, Jeff Glover, and Lee Thomas Brown. There's others out there, but these are ones I like. They are great at what they do. All right.